On November 23, 2011, the Kamloops RCMP entered into an investigation regarding the suspicious disappearance of a 39-year-old Kamloops resident. The victim was located later that evening when she arrived at the doorstep of a residence in Kamloops. The RCMP confirms that the victim was kidnapped. In the morning of November 24, 2011, the Kamloops RCMP arrested and charged Jack Samuel Froze with the following offenses in relation to this incident: uttering threats contrary to Section 264 of the Criminal Code, assault with a weapon, aggravated assault with a weapon, sexual assault with threats to use a weapon, kidnapping, theft of vehicle. From the moment we received the complaint on November 23, 2011, members of the Kamloops RCMP actively searched for the victim and suspect. Police dogs, helicopter, and all available resources were brought in to ensure the safe return of the victim. Notifications were also made to all BC and Alberta RCMP detachment, U.S. Border Services, and other BC municipal departments. From the onset, this investigation was handled by our Serious Crimes Unit. As a high-risk sex offender living in our community, Mr. Froze, amongst others, was immediately considered as a person of interest by the police. Although the suspect is in custody, our investigation is continuing, and we will be exploring the possibility of additional charges against Mr. Froze. We are not in a position to comment further on this investigation at this point. We are seeking assistance from the public. Anyone who has seen Mr. Froze or had contact with him on November 23rd and 24th, 2011, to please contact the Kamloops RCMP Serious Crimes Unit at 250-828-3000. The presence of Mr. Froze in our community was of great concern to the RCMP. He was released from a federal corrections institution on May 15, 2011, and we learned that he was going to be living in Kamloops. Under the provisions of the Privacy Act of Canada, the RCMP proactively notified the public the same day that Mr. Froze was moving to Kamloops and that he was a high-risk sex offender. We further notified the community of the conditions Mr. Froze needed to abide by. I will provide you with a copy of those conditions. Upon his release, the Kamloops RCMP partnered with Kamloops Community Corrections in order to manage Mr. Froze's risk to the community. Mr. Froze was monitored by each agency. Mr. Froze lived in Kamloops for approximately 147 days from the day of his release in May of 2011. Since May of 2011, Mr. Froze was charged twice by the Kamloops RCMP for breach of probation and served 45 days at Kamloops Regional Correctional Center. During the 147 days that Mr. Froze lived in our community, the Kamloops RCMP made contact with Mr. Froze 146 times. On 4 separate occasions, the Kamloops RCMP conducted covert surveillance on Mr. Froze. The events of November 23rd are horrific. We want to assure the community that we will continue to do everything that we can to proactively protect our community.
In your mind, did the RCMP, did your squads do everything they could to keep an eye on Froze? I mean,
absolutely.
In hindsight, looking back, is there anything else you could have done or should have done?
I can tell you that the folks that were working day shift that day stayed late, were out patrolling. It went from top to bottom. People were very concerned about this investigation. Like I said, we had police dogs, we had the helicopter. Our plainclothes officers were all working. Some of them were committed to a project and moved from this project and were taken to this investigation. So I am confident that our leaders did everything that they could to investigate that file that night. Again, this is, you know, when I say everybody, I was on my way to the Blazers game that night, and instead of jumping in my personal vehicle, I jumped in the police car to come and look and search for the vehicle as well. So like, when I say that everybody at the detachment was concerned about this, I mean everybody was concerned about it. And we did everything that we could to find this lady. Well, it's a great concern when we have someone who is known to be a high risk to reoffend, to be living in your community. We had others, and we've talked about others, at similar conferences in the past, that moved to Kamloops and other communities across Canada. I believe that we have a very good process in place at this detachment to monitor these people and to proactively, ensure that they don't reoffend. Unfortunately, we cannot be watching these people 24 hours a day. That is impossible. But given the circumstances, when you think about the number of days that he was in the community, 147 days that he actually was walking in Kamloops, we checked him 146 times. What's important, I think, for the public to know is that we do take these cases seriously when someone like Froze comes to our community, and that we here in Kamloops have worked really hard to try to prevent this, but there's still occasions where stuff like this will happen. We're prepared to put it all out so we could find the victim, which was our #1 priority, is to find her, and we did that on the 23rd, and we're extremely, extremely thankful for that. But then as the investigation progressed, we were not going to stop until we had this guy in jail.